Welcome to another episode of Talk Nerdy to Me. I'm Josh Koch, and today we're going to be talking about the process of changing your business management suite. And I'm joined by Steve Curran, who's Datto's Director of Services.
Hi, Josh.
For most MSPs, right, the concept of moving their business management platform, their RMM, or pick any of the kind of key tool sets that they use to run their business, how many times do they really do that? Right? 3, 4, maybe over the course of say 10 years.
Yep.
How many implementations do you think that your team is working with in a given year?
In a given year, I mean,
Sure.
we could be up to 2,000. A couple
Wow.
over that. I mean, and ideally, as a team that we've built internationally, I mean, we have over 132 years experience implementing both PSA and RMM.
Right.
So it's
you
not
don't look a day over 40.
Well, the hairline might fool you, but yeah. But really, and what's great about the organization, the team we've built, is just because you're working with Josh Koch, you still have that other, 130 years, 120 years of experience to guide you. So, there isn't anything we haven't typically seen yet in this process where someone hasn't had experience with it, and we can, make sure that we've got something, in the plan to make sure we help you get over that hump. So, you're right though, and really what we try to do is make sure that we bring to the table. When I talk to prospects and I talk about this process, I said my biggest job we have to bring to the table for you is we need to let you know what you don't know, right? We know what you don't know at this point. We got to make sure that if there's a business decision we got to make, that you have all the information, all the cards are on the table, and you make the decision that's best for your business, but you do it knowing how that might affect you down the road.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of times where you get that paralysis by analysis is because I don't know if I make this decision, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's. I think our team's number one job is to make sure that you have all that information to make the right decision.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's why, partners have struggled sometimes in the past is just you're not making a decision with all the information on the cards to make the big picture decision.
I want to talk about your team a little bit.
Sure.
You've talked about how they have collectively 132 years of experience. Could you maybe tell me a little bit more about when a partner comes to you, they're working with Datto, they're working with your team, what can they expect? What's sort of the background? Where are these folks coming from? What do they bring to the table as part of these implementation services?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different backgrounds on the team. We have some that have actually worked for MSPs and actually run the service desk. Absolutely. We have people that have come from support side that have worked in the IT industry. People that from the service background. And really, what we look for globally when we're building the team is the first thing is just you have to be driven to help someone else succeed. Like that's anything else we can teach you, and the other backgrounds of working in MSP and coming from the IT world, that's an added bonus. But you give me someone who cares about someone else succeeding, and we'll teach you the rest. But we've been lucky enough to have that other diversity come in where we can lean on from RMM standpoint. You've actually been a network engineer. Well, we're having this issue over here. Like, what's the best approach here from a monitoring or deployment standpoint? We can kind of, like I said, just because you're working with Josh doesn't mean these other people we don't bring in at occasion to make sure we're delivering the right level of service. So, and we've really tried to kind of now focus on bringing other people that have worked in that MSP space to really help us kind of understand, these are some of the real issues partners deal with on a day-to-day basis, and even after implementation, what are the other services we can offer to make sure that we continue to assist and be there for them as they grow with us.
Right. So it's a whole team of people that are committed to this. Okay. Well, what it sounds like is it's not necessarily it's non-prescriptive, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. No. You have to go and follow this map. You're presenting people with a series of options based off of your own best practices, what you've observed across, as you said, 2,000 potentially implementations in a given year.
Yeah, I mean, we do have implementation packages with plans that we find that are used most often. But again, that's why we have that initial conversation, is because it's not cookie cutter, it's not a one size fits all. There might be, again, 3 different routes we have that are options for us to get to that final destination, and we want to make sure we're choosing the route that's right for you and your team.
Interesting. Could you talk a little bit maybe about where you start that process when somebody's coming to you first with an implementation or cutting over to this, and where they're going to end up? What does that look like from the first meeting that they have with you up until the point where you say, all right, you're on your own now?
Yeah, and so again, it starts with what are we trying to accomplish? Understanding, really making sure that from a partner standpoint, we understand really what those requirements are, where some of those pain points are. So it's just as important to understand the requirements are, but what are some of the pain points of getting there to make sure, again, that we help you implement a system that captures those and really gets you over over the hump with those. And from there, once we understand that, then it's just building out that game plan or that roadmap to get you there. So, okay, well, if ticketing is the first thing we got to get to, then obviously we need to start with your customer base. So let's again look at the account information, and let's talk about your technicians and how do you organize those, and how does work come in, and really kind of just understanding how you're structured internally to hopefully give some efficiencies, and then but really just make sure the system gets set up, and then just taking it step by step. So first, we can't do tickets without accounts. We can't do tickets without resources set up, and again, we need to make sure resources have these 3 things, and really just helping you step by step. Here's the guidance. One of the things we've done recently, really built out an implementation portal that really allows you to see everything I have to accomplish, and then where I am in that process. That was one thing I think partners always struggled with is, we've done thousands of these,
sure.
And in my mind, I know exactly where you need to be, but you don't, right?
Yeah.
You're trusting the GPS that I know where to get you, but we've now let you see that route that you're going to go to get there, and exactly where I am in that process. Am I halfway there? Am I 3/4 of the way there? And I think that's helped alleviate a lot of that stress of what's left to do. But also, there's so many good, valuable resources for you during implementation. We want to make sure those are all in one place for you, and that's really what the portal allows us to bring to the table for our partners. And it really allows at any point, as you're doing some things off on your own, as your assigned implementation manager, I can see exactly what you've done and what you haven't done in the process.
So you have visibility into that.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
So it's very much, you're with them the entire journey, if
right.
you will. They can start with one product, they can bring in others as they go, or they can start with a collection of them.
Yep, and absolutely. And again, even if you're starting with RMM and PSA, which is a common thing our partners do. Again, depending on the package you bought, you might be working with the same person on both of those. If not, if we have sometimes with the bigger ones, we'll have 2 people on that project, but it's really one person taking the lead and that other person being the co-project manager. So everybody's in line with each other, and the implementation manager can be in constant communication. And even from a plan standpoint, it's going to be a unified plan that's presented. It's not working in silos to make sure, where things got to come together, we'll work together. Where we got to, move things in a separate location, we'll do that as well.
Do you find that changes sometimes where you think you're going to end up? Maybe it begins in one area, and you kind of need to reroute a little bit based off of those conversations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even sometimes midstream, we'll have a conversation where just something changes in the business, and we got to take a right where we thought we were going to go left. But as long as we're having that communication and those conversations, which we kind of continually do those check-ins to make sure that we're progressing the way we wanted to, or you wanted to be here by this date, but we're a little behind, so here's what we have to do to catch up. But it's really just being a little agile and not forcing people into this one. Nope, sorry, this is the way the plan says. Like, you got to use some common sense and really just listen to the partner and have that open communication. Yeah.
So what you're talking about right there is really that ratio, the signal to noise, if you will, right?
Yep.
One of the areas I'd like to kind of switch gears and talk about a bit is on the RMM side. This is an area where I see a lot of confusion or a lot of questions being asked about that signal to noise ratio.
Sure.
Kind of the dirty little secret of a lot of the RMM tools is that the quote unquote best practices that a lot of them ship with isn't necessarily the best practice for running an MSP so much as it's the best practice for selling you an RMM tool, right? The monitoring goes and produces all kinds of bells and whistles and alerts and so forth. But in practicality, that needs to be tuned down or customized for the business. Could you maybe talk a little bit about how you work with the MSPs to figure out what's going to work for them, for their customers, what's important for them to be monitoring or managing through that tool set?
Yeah, so initially it's just contractually what have you promised your customers that you're going to deliver from that standpoint. We try to start from there. Now, there are times where partners are really, they don't have those things well defined, or they're still not sure what we should monitor for, what we shouldn't. And so we basically do have some best practices around, this is what we find from our customers or an industry standard. This is really where a good starting point for you. And then again, sometimes it's even helping the customer kind of see that if you look for everything, it's going to be overwhelming. So, we can turn that on and then show them just make sure we're all on the same page that you're afraid you're going to miss something. Here's everything. And we're realizing that that's a little overwhelming, right? Okay, let's start to scale back and really start to hone in on what's important for you to monitor. So there's a couple of different approaches that we take. Some people know exactly what they need to monitor for, and then again, we'll provide that guidance as far as this is how that's set up. Some people are, hey, tell me how you think I should do it, and we'll do our best to provide some of that guidance and those best practices. And then some are like, I can't miss anything, and they're like, okay, well, here's everything, and then we can start to scale back from there and determine, okay, really what, from everything, what is, the things you really need to make sure we're approaching for. And even that, there's different ways to then manage those things. So it might have everything come in, more of it just informational, but then the things I really have to concentrate on, how do we make sure those are routed appropriately to, again, make sure I'm acting on the things I need to act on.
Beyond the initial implementation, is your team brought in some cases after the fact? Maybe somebody started with one form of implementation, or maybe didn't go as far as they wanted to. What does it look like, when I've partnered with Datto and I need to bring in some expertise to kind of help me with my processes, maybe a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line?
Sure. Yeah, we do that a lot as part of the services team. We've worked with plenty of partners. That a couple different things have changed. They might have, the original team that implemented might have moved on, and I brought another team in. So we got to, get you up to speed there. Your business has changed. Maybe you were break fix when you first implemented. Now you're more managed services, and what does that look like, and how do those changes approach? I mean, their products continue to evolve. I mean, how many releases we had with RMM this year in PSA? We're in our third release, so that the product continues to evolve, and we've always done a good thing of releases don't affect your day to day. But on the flip side, then sometimes you don't see it, you don't implement it.
Right.
So, there's so many different cases. We'll come back and work with a partner a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And it can be, again, the business has changed, it's a different turnover, or just, hey, I haven't kept up with this part of the product, and I really want to start to implement and get more usage out of. It could be projects, it could be, a lot of different things that are out there that just change how we work. So, it can be an engagement with the services team where it's the one-on-one consulting. We have a training department where we continue to put out webinars and just learn how to use a different part of the product, or again, new releases, learn how to, you can start to implement those. We're really building out a true partner success team as well that's really going to be more of engaging with the partner just overall, like what's the usage look like of all your products? How are you, are things just as a relationship standpoint with the company working out well for you, and be more proactive to make sure that our partners all get the full return on their investment with us. Whatever the product is, whatever the suite is, just to make sure that we're staying engaged with you. And,
right.
I've kind of probably overused the word partner at this point, but really, truly starting to build that partnership and that relationship.
And that comes back to what you're talking about as far as this really being a partnership and a relationship, as opposed to that cookie cutter approach.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think part of it, you got to trust the person you're working with, and I think by doing that, we have to make sure that we understand the business, the requirements, the goals, some of the pain points, and I think when you can have that conversation and go back to the partner and say, this is what I'm hearing is important to you, and you just build some trust that like I promise you, above all else, our team has your back, and everything we suggest is always in your best interest.
Right.
That's ultimately what our goal is, to make sure you, again, take advantage of what the tools have to offer.
Absolutely. On that point, is there something I can do as an MSP that helps me to be more successful? What can I do before you and I start the conversation even to ensure that we're going to get off on the right foot, that I'm putting my best foot forward? Yeah,
so I think, again, making sure you've got that person defined that understands your business, that has authority to make decisions on part of the business, that will have the bandwidth to help with the implementation, and to really kind of make sure you understand what your goals and requirements are. Like, what do I need to get out of this move? And don't make assumptions. Like, if there's something that's critical to your business, make sure, working with you on the pre-sales process, that I make you show me that. Like, show me how this is going to work, internally, and just not assume because we said it would do something that it's going to align with your goals.
Right.
Take the time. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're always willing to take that extra time to show the partner that this is what your requirement is, and I'll show you how that's actually going to be done to make sure that we've met your comfort level.
Right.
And I think that's crucial. That's crucial to make sure you're understanding on how that's going to actually work for you on a day-to-day basis, and then we'll help implement it. But make sure all those concerns or requirements you had coming in have been answered prior to starting the implementation.
So if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like the key takeaways there, if I'm an MSP, are be clear about what it is that I need. These are the services I'm contracted for. I got to make sure that this is there. At the same time, keep an open mind. I should be open and willing to listen to new information, maybe a different way of doing things, while at the same time taking care of those kind of contracted pieces. And then the third thing that you said I think was really key is making sure that you have somebody involved that has the authority to make decisions and make that change.
Absolutely, right. Yeah. I mean, because we're going to be asking questions about the business, and again, if we're trying to change processes, make sure that person has the understanding to know that what effect this would have on the business, and then two, if we agree that's a good one, that will actually has the authority to make that decision to implement it. So those are big things that make sure things stay on track, and then you kind of get the best of both worlds. Things I've seen in the past where someone hires someone brand new off the street to run the project, and they don't know the business, they don't know what's really going to be critical for some people to adopt the change, and I've seen sometimes that can cause some struggles sometimes.
Yeah. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. I know I learned a lot about the process. It sounds like there's a whole lot of resources that you have available. It's just a matter of picking up the phone and giving you a call.
Absolutely. Right. Well, thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for watching. For more information, you can reach out to your account manager, and they'd be happy to put you in contact with Steve or somebody from his team. Thanks so much for watching.